Welcome back to the House of Baseball. I'm Coach Shrek. Today, we're going to talk about the heater. So the fastball, right? By the way, don't try what I just did at home. All right, disclaimer, don't do that. Don't do anything even remotely close to what I just did for you. Just giving you a little added incentive for your fastball, right? So we're going to look at a couple different things here with the fastball. I want to start this one off by how you're going to start at the mound, right? Most guys go out to the mound, they warm up, they're throwing, they're getting their arm loose. Now what you need to be doing here is actually lessening your fastballs when you're going up. So you only want to max out at a 75% of what you can throw. There's a reason behind that. You do not want to throw your 100% when you get on the mound. The reason you don't want to throw that 100% at the mound is you just showed the other team exactly what you could do. You got up there, you got on the mound, you showed 100%. That's all you got. That's all the gas you have in the tank. You don't want to do that. What you want to focus on is warming your arm up. So when you reach the mound, the idea is to make throws that are going to start at about 25% of what you can do, and then moving up to a couple pitches like that, then 50, then moving up to the 75. Now, normally you would have warmed up prior to getting on the mound. Some coaches throw you in there, and at that situation, it's not a good situation, but in that situation, because it happens, as a player, what you got to do is kind of try to help build your arm up to the ability. Now, you're going to have to do a lot of, cool downs and stuff that I've on here to be able to help you recover from someone else's mistake. So if a coach puts you out there dry, you don't want that. That is the worst scenario. I hate when I see coaches, pull a guy off a short and have him pitch and then put this guy in that guy's place. That is terrible. You are really, really hurting your guys, right? So you don't want to do that. What you want to focus on is getting yourself warmed up prior to getting on the mound. It helps you with location. It helps you gain your speed and your strength. It also helps get yourself back into a situation of where you can actually throw the ball properly instead of just going out there and just kifing them in there left and right. You don't want to have that. You want to be warmed, prepared, get on the mound so you can do your best and perform. Those are the biggest things. But you never want to top out at your 100% of what you can throw. Don't tip them off of what you can do. That's definitely not what you want to do. You want to stay in that 75% range. And then when they come up, they're going to see something totally different than what you've actually presented to them. So that first hitter who's going to tell the rest of the team how you pitch is going in at a disadvantage. You haven't told them nothing. You haven't showed them anything. You just got yourself loose and ready to destroy this hitter. And that is what you want to focus on. Now, I got a baseball here. I'm going to get it for you. So I'm going to be back in like half a second. But I'm going to teach you some holds that we're going to have, some grips that we want to do with the baseball, and why we have those grips, and what helps you to determine which hold you want to do to which batter that you have in the box, right? So I'm going to get the baseball. So the first one I want to talk about is a four seam. Now there's a reason I want to talk about the four seam first. This is probably one of the best pitches for getting you to be more accurate at the plate. It does help you. It's not, there's a top two that kind of help you. This is one of them. So you have the four seams of the baseball. So if you can see this, it would be this one, this one, this one. We're crossing all these seams in the middle of the baseball. So your four seam, right? So depending on how you want to hold, you could actually separate your fingers here and hold it this way or put them together. This is not a big deal. This is a comfort for you. So if you want them together, put them together. If you want them separate, put them separate. But what you want to do is line up so it's comfortable. Now typically on mine, my first finger, this one's a little offset to the first finger. It's on the inside line up. So when I line this up, I feel the comfortablest at holding the baseball. And then I can get more accurate because I'm not going to have a lot of movement on the baseball as I pitch it. When it's cutting four seams through the air, it's staying on the same path as what you want to finish out as. So as you throw, this thing's going to continue to spin and not really slice the air, but cut through it. And you'll have a more accurate pitch with the four seam. So that's kind of the idea of the four seam fastball. More accurate, okay, better location with it. This is when you get wild and crazy, or you're starting off and you want to see where you're at as far as your pitches. This is a good one to start with. Now eventually we're going to change all that up come later on, but mainly that's what you want. So for your two seam fastball, this one typically will dive for you, right? It'll cut off to the side. You're going to want to see it. You're going to want to throw it and see what happens. Talk to your catchers, and catchers, by the way, don't lie to your pitchers. If it didn't do nothing, tell them. You're not helping them by saying, oh, that was a great one, when it was really terrible. So your two seam, you're going to put your fingers across the seams. You can do that. You can actually hold them at this point. So we're going to go two seams. Okay, nothing. We're going to go through right through the center here and through the two seams. Now it will show the seams, not show the seams, so it's a different kind of cut through the air. So you're going to cut with those laces through the air on just two in one plane of the baseball instead of four planes of the baseball with a four seam. You're going to go with two seams that are going to cut, so it's going to be half as much. So that's what creates the movement through the air as it cuts through that. So those are the two seam, four seam fastballs I wanted to talk to you about. Four seam more accurate. Two seam has a lot more movement to it. This is when you're on your game and get it together. The one thing that you want to focus on when you're pitching and you're trying to throw your fastball as best as you can, you want to think about three different elements to this. Three, okay? Even for a fastball, you want to work with three elements. The first one being location, where you're going to place the baseball in the zone or even out of the zone. If you're going to throw a fastball and it's going to tail for you, you might want to tail it out so the guy don't got a chance of hitting it. So even we're going to work within the strike zone and outside that strike zone, depending on what type of hitter we have. So the placement of the baseball, where you want it to place, up and in, up, in and down, in and low, outside, straight down the middle. If you're smoking some gas and no one's hitting it, what's the point of doing anything else except for the point where you want to change that game up a little bit and try to, not show them a consistency of pitches. When they see that consistency of the same pitch or in the pitch count, they can develop in their mind what you're going to throw next and be ready for that pitch. So bear that in mind. Now velocity is the second thing. So velocity is the speed of the baseball and the way it travels and how to gain more velocity when you're throwing. Now this is going to be done at practices. This is not going to be done on the mound when you're pitching in a game, but you want to develop your shoulders and hip separations when you're coming through. So the more separation you have between your shoulders and your hip placement, that's going to create more velocity on the backside. Your push, your framework, all your mechanics are going to work together on this to create great velocity. There's a lot of good videos out on velocity. There's a lot of bad ones too. So you want to be selective. But the biggest thing with velocity, the biggest thing is to start within your strength zone. You know, how much strength do I have to possess to throw the baseball? And this is an individual kind of thing. And the fastball, you could be throwing 100, right? Or you could throw 80. And the speed, to me, doesn't really matter too much. What it does do, though, is changes a few elements in the game and in your pitching. So that's why the changeup is so important alongside with the fastball. So if you're throwing gas and you want to change that up a bit and you take some off of it, now the timing is off with your hitter. His ability to hit this baseball has drastically decreased, right? By the sure throw of the baseball, the speed of the baseball, and how it travels into the plate. So if it's coming hard and fast all the time, pretty soon you can catch that timing up in your mind as a hitter. But if you're changing it, now you keep them guessing. Well, what's he going to throw? Is he going to throw a fastball? Is he going to throw, his high heat, or he's going to take some off of it with this changeup? These things develop. And the third thing that you want to think about is your movement. Okay, now like before, what I talked about was a four seam versus a two seam. So your four seam more accurate, more straight on pitch, where your two seam has movement to it, right? So when you get on to what you're doing, you want to focus on the movement of the baseball as it travels to the plate, and different holds and different ways of holding your fastball. And that's not, by any means, when you're practicing, you can change your holds, offset your ball a little bit, offset it. See what that hard fastball does by just offsetting your hand placement on the baseball. Now you want to practice that before the fact of getting into a game, but at practice, you're actually going to see and talk with your catcher on what those balls do, in the zone. And the catcher is really apt to be able to tell you exactly what those are doing. And it's going to help you be a better pitcher in the long run. So your off-speed stuff is important. Your movement's important. Your velocity is important. And the change of that velocity is important as well. And your location and placement. Now, I've seen a lot of guys give a lot of gas over a length of time because their pitch availability to them is limited. All right, they got a curveball and a fastball, and they're going to throw mainly fastballs and throwing in some curveballs. So in the longer days, in the longer that you go, and I know pitch counts are in place here, so that we want to, honor those pitch counts because you want to have your guy later on. So honor those. Take yourself out of the game if you're feeling some stress or anything like that. That's one focus that you want to focus on. So you also could take some stress off your arms, off your shoulders, just by throwing the three-fingered fastball. Now, I haven't heard a lot of talk about a three-fingered. I've heard it mentioned, but not really explained well. So your three-fingered fastball, right, is going to put more ability. Instead of shrinking it down with two fingers, you actually throw the third, so you have a wider base on the ball, almost where you cover it up. Now this is going to take a lot of stress off your muscles, and taking that stress off your muscles is going to help you go in the 5, 6, 7 inning, right? So remember, if you need to go to this for a few pitches to just get yourself out of it, this is one way that you can take a lot of stress off your arms. Okay, so just to recap for you, we're looking at, when you're warming up, no more than 75% of what you could do. All right, that's going to create a lot of anxiety for hitters, trust me. The two versus the four seam, okay, four seam being more accurate, two seam having more movement. And always remember your location, your velocity, and your movement. These are big. These are the main things that you focus on when you're actually practicing pitching. All right, you want to focus on those and how to develop each one of those to the best of its ability. Don't forget to throw your changeup in there, taking some off, putting some on. That kind of helps with your fastball. Those are kind of linked. So you want to make sure that you have a good changeup to be able to help yourself in the long run. So once you work on all those things, once you get yourself back on a mound, once you get yourself back in the game here, you always got to remember one last thing from me. Respect the game.